For decades, conventional wisdom held that moving away meant breaking up. The assumption was simple: physical separation creates a fragile bond destined to snap. There is a biological basis for this pessimism. Human attachment relies heavily on physical touch, which triggers the release of oxytocin, the bonding hormone. Furthermore, researchers estimate 93% of our communication effectiveness depends on nonverbal cues like body language and tone of voice. Remove those, and the connection should starve. Yet over 14 million couples in the United States alone are currently navigating a long-distance romantic relationship. This chart shows relationship metrics like intimacy, trust, and satisfaction. Across multiple studies, couples living apart frequently score higher in these categories than couples living in the same city, which presents a puzzle. If you strip a relationship of its biological foundation, the touch, the physical presence, the shared environment, how do these couples keep it from collapsing? The answer is that they do not rely on our default biology. Instead, successful long-distance couples intentionally engineer an architecture of distributed intimacy. When you remove physical presence, a relationship loses its natural gravity. To avoid drifting apart, communication has to become a highly deliberate, engineered system. Partners use specific digital tools to fulfill very different psychological needs. Text messaging provides a steady stream of mundane presence, sharing daily errands or minor frustrations. Voice and video calls are deployed specifically to create deep emotional resonance. This graph illustrates the true predictors of relationship survival. While volume of messages varies, the top line shows that a steady, rhythmic response time pattern correlates with long-term success. Research utilizing Q methodology has identified different psychological factions. Individuals labeled tech-savvy romantics thrive by using technology as structural support. In contrast, Debbie Downers perceive digital communication as a burden and struggle to maintain the bond without physical proximity. These digital interactions act as the load-bearing steel for the relationship, providing the structural support previously held by physical proximity. The mind also builds its own defenses. Separated partners often develop quixotic ideals. They focus heavily on idealized traits and overlook flaws to reduce the anxiety caused by the geographic void. The physical toll, however, is much harder to ignore. Skin hunger, or chronic touch deprivation, is a biological reality that triggers elevated levels of cortisol, the body's primary stress hormone. To combat this, couples engage in sensory substitution. They hack their own nervous systems to simulate the physical contact they are missing. A weighted blanket is one tool for this hack. The fabric provides deep pressure stimulation, mimicking a hug to force the biological release of oxytocin. Many couples also maintain their physical intimacy and bridge time zones through the use of remote-controlled, internet-connected devices. Through these physical and psychological workarounds, humans can effectively trick their biology, patching the holes left by the physical vacuum. There is another hidden stressor in distributed intimacy: the massive logistical friction and high financial costs associated with travel and communication. To maintain contact across conflicting time zones, couples have to engineer communication bridges. This requires rigid scheduling to ensure their waking hours overlap for quality interaction. Traveling to close that geographic gap is expensive. Because of this, financial transparency becomes an absolute requirement for managing the economic burden of the distance. Partners frequently establish joint accounts or dedicated savings specifically labeled as closing the distance funds. This schematic shows how financial nodes merge into a central fund. Shared infrastructure like this acts as a hard data proxy for emotional trust and long-term commitment. This level of financial and operational coordination moves the relationship past sentiment and into a disciplined partnership of shared resources. The ultimate objective for almost every distributed relationship is closing the distance to finally achieve cohabitation. Yet, statistically, closing the gap is the most dangerous phase. Up to 1/3 of reunited couples terminate their relationship within 3 months of moving to the same city. Clinical researchers identify relational turbulence as the primary cause for this high failure rate. The first trigger is reality. Those protective, quixotic ideals shatter when partners are suddenly confronted with each other's mundane, daily flaws. The second trigger is a jarring loss of space. Moving in together sharply curtails the intense personal autonomy that each partner developed while living apart. Years of geographic distance serve as a high-pressure incubator for relational skills. Couples who master this architectural framework often find that once the turbulence of reunion passes, physical proximity is the easiest phase they've ever faced.